G'day friends and fans, and welcome to Dave Talk Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 20th of October 2025. I'm your host, the author, David Applegate, author of the books The Boyhood of Cade, Power Games, Into the Elsebound, and The Erotic Tales from the Empire. Part 1 is out now, Part 2 coming. And I'd like to thank all the people who support the channel and support me through all my links in the link tree. Now, before I get to the reason why I say Zelensky's not interested in peace, I think it'll become apparent to you as we go through the news. And I think a lot of people are going to recognize a pattern, although I'll say it at the end. Now, it has been put to Trump, is Putin buying time before the peace deal? He expressed skepticism, though he believes Putin does want a deal. Now, Trump has met with Zelenskyy and called Vladimir Putin. Now, after that, he still believes it's achievable, despite acknowledging there's tremendous bad blood between the two Vlads. I don't think it's I think it's a cruel joke. I think people just... I hate when the website tunes out. Anyway, there wasn't much more to be said about that other than I think Ukraine was manipulated into voting for Zelenskyy through, and so is just like New York. I think now and again the media can run a highly successful campaign, but that's the minority of the time, believe it or not. For every Harry Potter, there's 100 failed campaigns. For every Vladimir Zelenskyy, there is pretty much a million Kamala Harrises. Remember, most political campaigns, there are multiple candidates for every seat. So the majority of campaigns lose. The majority of book writers, the majority of everything, lawyers, journalists, and, believe it or not, empires. The majority of empires fail. They actually all eventually fail. One of the most common failures is an empire turning in on itself, as we've seen throughout history. The desire for power is, of course, why the Greeks tried democracy. But every liberal democracy has ended in fascism. You don't have to believe me, okay? Just understand, there is no ancient democracy that you can point to that's a success story. And in modern history, Weimar Republic, a liberal democracy. And of course you're going to tell me in the comment section perhaps that America is not a liberal democracy, it's a republic. In name only. Don't forget, Democrats are trying to turn it into a liberal democracy, which is why it should never be allowed to become a liberal democracy. Because a republic can fail, but you just restart the republic, right? Which is why the French, remember the French just tried to create a republic. Republics can be rebooted. If a leader fails or falls, you just re-elect a new one using the same rules, because the rules work most of the time. Liberal democracies give in to the wild ambitions of the majority and just rewrite the constitution to suit their whims. That is the difference. And this is what's happening in France. France is falling to the whims of the unruly majority. See, the majority should never be allowed to vote. This is what people don't understand about democracy and republics. People with the capacity to vote should be allowed to vote, but the majority don't have the capacity to vote. They have neither the time nor inclination, and most of them self-remove from the voting process, which is why voting should never be mandatory. Where voting is mandatory, you find failed governments, because the people will just buy their vote. And you look at failed states, buying votes, particularly with USAID, is a normal thing. That's how Zelenskyy got into office. Because it is a failed liberal democracy. It is not a constitutional republic. The current president of Ukraine rules by decree. And many in Ukrainian governments have been nothing more than puppets of the oligarchs. And of course, you always have the socialists who whine about oligarchs. Here's the thing. That's exactly what socialism is. A bunch of political elitists deciding everything using fear and intimidation. The rule of the mob. What's the difference between a republic and a democracy? In a republic, you have property rights. In a democracy, your rights are dependent on the whim of your neighbours. If they want your property, the mob has the majority rights. Actually, if you think about it, wait a minute. If the majority is white and they vote out, so maybe a liberal democracy is what we need to teach Democrats. Oh, the white majority votes out all the black people. What can you do about it? It's a democracy. The majority rules. Absolute. The majority rights. But Ukraine does not want peace. Ukraine attacks a Russian gas plant. Supply, but they don't tell you is that it's a civilian supplying gas to civilian homes. Are they civilians? Just because they're not in uniform doesn't mean they're not Ukraine. And what are civilians doing in a war zone? They're civilian volunteers, by the way, working for the Ukrainian army. Propaganda, folks. Propaganda. See, in Orangeburg, nowhere near the combat zone. Nowhere near the combat zone. And it comes after Trump called for a ceasefire. What does Zelenskyy do? Blow up a gas plant in Russia to provoke the Russians. And then puts out a statement that says, I'm the willing Zelenskyy. I'm willing to meet with the Putin and the Trump in the Budapest. And I will tell them off, and I will make a peace, and Ukraine will have a just peace, a lasting peace for Ukraine, a justice for the Ukrainian people. See, Trump calls for a ceasefire, and he says, no, we need no pressure on the Putin. We need more weapons. They are stronger than Hamas. Wipe them out. The boogeyman. President Trump made a reasonable request. Yes, you may argue that Putin didn't abide by it, but hey, Zelenskyy launched first. So why should... Again, if you want to show Russia as the aggression, You need actual non-aggression from Ukraine in the first place. Like everybody says, no, the war started in the 2022 invasion, which is the CNN talking point, because they covered up for a decade or more the war in Donbass, where Ukrainian police were under the guise of special military operation, which is they murdered ethnic Russians for being so-called rebellion. So they rebelled because they had no choice. They were being murdered. And then from that push back, they were pushed back to, and since then they've expanded their territory. Now, when the Russians invaded, they did make a lot of success, but they overstretched their supply lines. Something they haven't done since. Now we have, assuming at this point, consider it a target every day. Now, there's pretty much fighting in the northern buffer zones. Do not know how much of this is considered effort. Battle footage is rare. But the Russians are fighting over the bridge to cut off, to keep this. They're actually fighting to keep it open, because they will eventually use it themselves. But right now, they're trying to establish a foothold here, push back the Ukrainians, and take Yuli. I'll just call her Yuli, okay? Alright, concerted effort, actually, as far as I know, there was a concerted effort to push the Ukrainians back here. Most of the time, it is sporadic fighting, and so far, they have not worn down the Ukrainians sufficiently to warrant an offensive. But they are making progress. And the Russians now and again make big progress. So we have Orgiovo, Velesica under siege. Russians taking more land north of Chavez Yar. Not much. But each day it grows a little bit more. Now, this one doesn't grow every day, but it grows every few days. Though they haven't taken much in this. But they've made some progress. And, of course, right now, the progress in Pokrovsk, yeah, a little bit of... So there's building by building fighting in Pokrovsk. The Russians have now a strong foothold. They control the roads, most of the roads in. They've taken this town. They are pushing up through here. There's fighting in Loninska. They've made some progress here as well. And however, the map here has been withdrawn. But remember, the fighting has never been... This map has been weird. The way they draw it, redraw it, and take away lines. It's hard to know where the propaganda begins and where it's the matter of... but we do know that there is sometimes... I'm not saying the Ukrainians lose every battle, but sometimes the Russians do get pushed back. But it's hard to know when they're pushed back and what is Ukrainian cope. Remember, Zelensky's put out statements several times about the so-called liberation of Doprenelia when there's no Russian troops there. Alright, so there's been success in this area. And there's been success, but only little success in this area as well, although the advance here is big. Remember, it's mostly open country, though the overrunning Ukrainian, they are now buffering up against Ukrainian positions. But it's, as I said, I thought they would move through here. They've broken the Ukrainian lines here and starting to catch up here. They have to fill this in. Because cutting this off, if they push, as I said, pushing through to Zaporozhye, they'd cut this in half. And if we zoom out, cut this in half, zoom out a little bit more. That's another, so that's that's a huge chunk of the state. Although they already have a huge chunk of Zaporozhye. But that takes them to 70% of that state. That's a huge chunk if they break through. All right, now, as you see, they're going across the border. Oh, I thought they'd go through here, but no, maybe it's because this is the border. They're actually going to bypass this. That would be reasonable to assume. Bypass that and cut right through there in Zaporozhye, and that gives it still, that's 70 to 80% of the state now under Russian control, or oblast if you want to be technical. Now, Russians have hit a coal mine outside of Pavlograd. Obviously, retaliation for the Ukrainians hitting the gas facility, and how the Russians have continue, of course, with its targeting of military targets in Dnipro. Other drones and missiles allegedly launched overnight, but again, where they hit and what they hit are not told. But usually you get the usual cope. We shot them all down. No, they didn't. So that is where we're at. We're now at the point where we look at the timeline. Well, look at the timeline. You can see where they're there. And where they're now. So that's a lot. And if they keep that up another few days, again, these are small towns, but drawing in troops to these frontline towns, particularly Kharkiv, may pay off if they can break through. Now it's going to take a lot of action and effort, because they not only have to break through to Tenny here and then cross country, probably take them a few weeks to get there, but they have to protect their flanks along the way. It's not a matter of just advancing. Now, Mike, what I would do is I advance to here, set up and secure my lines, and then move up here and secure. So I'd have a huge huge loss for Ukraine by taking a chunk like this, and then expanding the cauldron. So get up to here, take this, expand south, expand west to Zaporozhye. Each time. Alright, do it as well. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you go advance and then backfill. So advance here, backfill here. So eventually you would isolate and fill until you're pushing the Ukrainians up this line and through to out this end, and that is, and Zelenskyy would have no choice but to comply, to either avoid, to every time that he finds his troops cauldron, he is going to have to move them to a line and try to, he can't defend open fields. And when in a fortress town, his troops are incinerated. He is losing both fronts. And when you make that clear enough, Zelenskyy, of course, cannot win a direct fight. So what's he do? He resorts to attacking Russia wherever and whenever he can to try and instill fear. But what he's doing is just typical nasty little man tactics of kicking somebody in the shins and then crying when they hit you. Eventually, Europe is going to get sick and tired of Zelenskyy, because sooner or later, whether it's a Romanian ship or somebody is going to lose a ship in the Ukrainian port, and the insurance companies are going to go, well, you shouldn't have been there. They're not going to cover you forever. Right? This is what sunk the British economy, right? War with Spain, war with France, war with Spain, war with France, war with Germany, and eventually, at the end of World War I, the insurance company said, there's no money. So they tried to take it out of Germany. There's just not enough money in the world to cover the war damage. Okay? And eventually they just tell you to go fuck yourself. I mean, it's inevitable. Sooner or later, Europeans, and I hate the comment section of most videos, so I'm pretty grateful that most people don't comment. I know YouTube loves comments, but you look at the hate and the glee for this war that some people have, and I'm pretty grateful that none of those people are in my audience, because they wouldn't last long anyway. They would hate because they hate the truth. They want to be entertained. They're murder hobos by proxy, right? They're the sort of people who will scream about violent video games and then sit down and then go to a No Kings March and complain about Trump. Trump and political violence, right-wingers, they're the most dangerous and most violent. Now, we have hope of peace, whether it's statements of Russia seeking resolution or Ukraine told to their face, you're going to have to cede territory. But this is where we get to the part where Russia's made advances yet again. This is a almost daily event. This time it's Leniro again. It's only a small town, but they've taken control of several settlements over the last week. But this is where we get to why Zelenskyy doesn't want peace. And why I say he doesn't. Because, see folks, it depends on the audience. If he's talking to you, the general public, he's talking about a just peace for the Ukraine. Russia must withdraw. When he's talking to Russia, the peace is a complicated issue. We must resolve several issues with the United States. And then, Putin says, well, just sign the deal. No, I have to clear it with my friends in my friends in Britain, my friends in France, my friends in Germany. But when he's talking to the United States, he's telling Trump, well, I'm ready for peace. I'm ready to join you in Budapest if invited. He was invited several times. Did he show up? Remember, folks, how many times has he been invited to peace talks, to Moscow, to Ankara? He tried to invite himself and get on a flight to Alaska and was told to, F off. He got to London, I think, and then said, no, my actual plans was to talk to London, to my partners in the greatest of the countries, the greatest Britain. This is the kind of smug, two-faced rat that he is. He has no position other than kissing people's ass. He has no intention of paying his debts. He's a typical Ukrainian thug. Okay, the country is a write-off. Because all the good people just get sick and tired of having their votes not count. They're sick and tired of the bureaucrats shredding votes to keep their jobs. That's what they do, folks. You think it only happens in America? It happens around the world. The bureaucrats try to interfere in elections because they don't want the cost cutters to get in and do their job. And now and again, the fact that Trump won is a miracle, but it's only because the overwhelming vote. If they say 77 million, it was much more than that. You saw the No Kings protest, 7 million? That's probably the amount of Democrats there really are. The rest are fence sitters. They just let the Democrats win election after election because they're sick and tired of politics. It's about time the Republican Party stopped playing politics and doing the job they're elected to do. But unfortunately, they keep getting into arguments with Democrats, and the people just say, we're sick of you both. No, there is nothing Republicans can do to stop the Democrats from being arseholes, okay? Unless you completely rewrite the Constitution where they say, right, you don't want to do a deal, lock the doors, we'll just get on with doing business. No, the Constitution is set up so that the Democrats always have a seat at the table. Until you get rid of that, which is impossible, until you get rid of that nasty thing where you can have the overwhelming majority elect a government and then get nothing done because the minority can just walk out of every committee meeting or challenge you in court or judge rule against you. That's politics. And it's getting nastier. And we all know, right? You see Zelenskyy, he's a politician. He tells you to your face what you want to hear. He has a different speech for every audience. Is it here? Which one is it? It's right here. Ready to join Putin. And then says no. When he's talking to the European Parliament, he's urging don't appease Russia. After US trips, don't appease Russia. Don't give them anything. So there's no peace deal. Treat them like a mouse. Threaten to destroy them. Destroy them all. That's what he really wants. He's a monster. And if you can't see that, you're into ethnic cleansing. And you belong in the 1930s. And it's the same with all these people who want to flood the world with Africans. You're into ethnic cleansing in a different way, but you're still cleansing. You're still destroying the native population of a country because you're salty over the past. But today, every day, there are dozens of pro-Ukrainian channels who pump out propaganda all the time. And though not reported. This actually occurred yesterday. A Russian strike team successfully navigated the Black Sea, launched drones against Ukraine, striking weapon shipments from Romania in the Odessa port. Now these are drones. They went in, literally flew into the building and exploded. And of course the ammunition detonated, blowing the roof off the building in the port. Now, you will never hear about this on pro-Ukrainian channels. Most Ukrainian drone strikes do not do as much damage as they claim. Most drones, right? And even when, they state, they destroyed 18%. They destroyed 5 buildings. We blew up cargo ships. We blew up, and we sunk. They've only sunk 3 Russian ships that we know of, and damaged one submarine twice. The same submarine twice. They damaged it once in Odessa. When it was transferred to another port, they damaged it again there. But that's about it. Ukraine has rarely done any significant damage to Russia. You've seen most of the time they've blown a few windows out in an office building in Moscow. Now again, they've hit a few ammunition dumps, and they go up spectacular, right? And they're good propaganda. And yeah, every couple of days they destroy a Russian tank. But they never show you their losses. And they never will. Ukraine is nothing but propaganda. They are pretty much running on fumes, hoping they can fake it until they make it, hoping that America will somehow shift. But that is not a happy man. When he's not looking, when he doesn't know his picture's been taken, you see the real Zelenskyy. A desperate, worried wart, surrounded by hooked-nosed crooks, obese, useless, black shirts. That's what they are. They are the black shirts. They are not anti-fascist. That is like 1984, where Ingsoc says, "We're not communists, we're not socialists." Really? It's in your name, National Socialist Party. But they call themselves servant of the people. But they banned the party for life. They banned an anti-abortion party for alleging they were pro-Russian. They banned the Orthodox Church because they said it wasn't Ukrainian. Yet all these liberals out there who claim the separation of church and state, oh, but that's Ukraine, that's their culture. No, it isn't. Right? That's cope. Okay? That is liberal hypocrisy. Every liberal government has ended in fascism. See, liberals are weaklings. That's why they form mobs. They hate success in others, and they always seek to ruin. Technically, they've ruined me. Shadow bans, bad reviews on my books, getting people to, finding ways to ban and cancel people on my Patreon, burying my subscribe star, and they rely on the fact that the majority are not willing to support a small YouTube channel. So they keep you small, they keep you down, they keep you oppressed. They keep the truth from the majority. Each and every time someone breaks through and ruins their day, and that makes my job hopefully easier. Because I started this to study war, to write a better war story, to write an authentic war story that wasn't polluted by history and politics. And instead I discovered a war that was totally polluted by politics and totally propagandized. And that's when I realized that's the true story of war. It is the story of propaganda, lies, and hatred. Because without people like Zelenskyy and carrying a huge chip on their shoulder, having a huge hate boner for somebody for being bigger than them, for being more successful than them, so they want to tear them down. That's the true story of war. And it may be and you look at most empires, they started small states. They didn't start as big states. Rome started as a city. Alexander started as Macedonia. Britain started as a quarter of an island. The USSR started as a revolution in Ukraine. That's where Ukraine thinks the history is on their side. So, thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. And please support the channel. Now you can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. I appreciate each and every one of you. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.